I want to give you 100% proof that the Quran is false. The Quran is not from God.
One of the biggest scientific errors in the Quran that even the most experienced Muslim apologists struggle to defend is the claim that the heart is the organ which is responsible for thinking, understanding, reasoning, and cognitive behavior. It is by the heart that we think and reason, not by the brain.
When I was in school, I was taught that the brain is the master organ in the body. But what the new science is showing us is that the brain receives the instructions telling it what to do from our heart.
Is that these descriptions were revealed to Muhammad from God. He could not have known such details because he was an illiterate man with absolutely no scientific training.
Dear friends of the faith, do you know that most of us generally believe that the brain is the center of the mind that controls our entire body and has the function of thinking and understanding the functions of the body? On the other hand, the heart or liver is very important to regulate the blood supply to the whole body so that each organ can function properly. And the absence of its function will certainly make the human being die instantly. The heart is as important as the brain. But can the heart think and make decisions like the brain? Until now, modern medical science didn't even have a clear explanation and was still researching this complex issue. However, a professor at Oxford University in the UK, David Patterson, discovered that our brain is not the only source of thoughts. The heart also contributes to them, and our hearts actually contain neurons similar to those in the brain. Quoted from metaphysicforlife.com, since 1991, the HeartMate Institute, located in Boulder Creek, Colorado, has been studying the power and influence of the human heart on the brain and body. And what they found was contrary to what most schools, families, and society at large had taught and believed. The scientific research revealed that the human heart is thousands of times more powerful and influential than the brain in sending signals and information to other human bodies. This was later reaffirmed by the findings of Greg Braden, a famous American scientist and author, that the human heart and brain are, in fact, closely connected, creating a symbiotic emotional whole.
Scientists made a discovery, headway, that really opened the door to this conversation. They discovered every human heart, approximately 40,000 or so specialized cells configured in a way that creates a neural network in the heart. They're brain-like cells, but they're not in the brain, they're in the heart. And it's actually called the little brain in the heart. And these 40,000 specialized cells are called sensory neurites. What they found, what the scientists discovered, is that these cells think independently of the cranial brain. They feel and they remember independently of the cranial brain.
You see, long before that, some 1400 years ago, the Koran came with a clear message about the phenomenon of the heart thinking powerfully. The earliest scholars who delved into the Quranic meaning of the thinking heart argued, the mind is actually located in the heart. This opinion is based on the words of Allah in the verses of the Quran, Surah Al-Araf verse 179, and Surah Al-Hajj verse 46, which clearly mention the thinking of the heart with the phrase, Yafqahan or Yasilan. From Nu'man bin Bashir, the Prophet Muhammad said, remember that in the body there is a lump of meat. If it is good, then the whole body is good. And if it is damaged, then the whole body is damaged. Know that it is the heart. Hadith, narrated by Bukhari and Muslims. A Canadian doctor, Dr. John Andrew Armour, introduced a new term called neurocardiology, which focuses on studying the function of the cerebellum in the heart in detail. In his logical explanation, he states, when someone signals the heart to slow down, the heart reacts according to its own will. That is, not necessarily in accordance with what we expect. In fact, sometimes the heart's reaction is opposite to the signal, unlike the brain, which we can control according to our wishes. And amazingly, about 1400 years ago, the Koran conveyed the same concept. The responsibility and position of the mind are not only in the brain, but also in the heart, where the spirit resides in the human body. Another discovery that is no less horrendous was also found in the Koran by the famous Canadian professor, Keith L. Moore. He was president of the American Association of Clinical Anatomists in 1989. He is also a scientist of anatomy and embryology, with dozens of positions and honorary degrees in science. In 1980, Keith L. Moore was invited to Saudi Arabia to lecture on anatomy and embryology at King Abdul Aziz University. During his 3 years there, he helped interpret the science contained in the Quran. One of them is the verse about embryonic development and individual growth in the womb, which is explained in Surah Al-Mu'minun, verses 12 to 14.
وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ سُلَالَةٍ مِنْ طِينٍ ثُمَّ جَعَلْنَاهُ نُطْفَةً فِي قَرَارٍ مَكِينٍ ثم خلقنا النطفة علقة فخلقنا العلقة مضغة فخلقنا المضغة عظاما فكسونا العظام لحما ثم أنشأناه خلقا آخر فتبارك الله أحسن الخالقين.
The professor initially claimed to be surprised by the accuracy of the contents of the surahs recorded in the 7th century, before the science of embryology was established. It is impossible that this verse was written in the year 780, because what is contained in the letter is a scientific fact that has only recently been recognized by modern science. It is clear to me that this statement of the Quran has been received by Muhammad from God or Allah, he said.
As far as it is known from the history of embryology, little was known about the staging and classification of human embryos until the 20th century. For this reason, the descriptions of the human embryo in the Quran cannot be based on scientific knowledge in the 7th century. The only reasonable conclusion is that these descriptions were revealed to Muhammad from God. He could not have known such details because he was an illiterate man with absolutely no scientific training.
And because of his findings, he later converted to Islam. He later wrote a famous book entitled The Developing Human. This book is a reference for students of medical schools around the world. And in the latest edition, he added information he learned from the Quran about embryology. Well, Islamic circles, viewers, until our encounter this time, I hope you all inspire. See you in the next video. Thank you.